welcome to another episode of the PMD Tea Buyers Club. I'm your host, J. Silver. This is, I think, episode 40. We've finally come here. It's taken such a long time. It took us I think we did in 3 months, we did 30 episodes, and then this whole year I think we've done about 10 or some ridiculous number, but we're finally back on track. We're tasting teas today. It's late. This is a late night hustle video for you guys, but I've tried I think this is the third or fourth attempt in trying to video this. And something has gone wrong, so touch wood, it doesn't go wrong today. I'm back in the kitchen, it's been a while. Let's get straight into it. So what teas have we got? We've got some teas from Maskeliya region today. We've got 4 estates. The reason why I'm tasting these out of season is because, for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to see who is making, who can make tea when the weather is bad. When you guys saw me previously on Maskeliya, the weather was good, very dry, lack of rain. The leaf is full of volatile oils that when you pluck, you make quality tea, and this is what we call the Western quality season and Western quality tea. Right now it's raining. I spoke to Tushan the other day, who's on Moray, and he says to me that it's raining very hard. As a result, you're not going to get these volatile oils built up in the leaf. So how do you still make good tea? Now, you're not going to make the same quality of tea that you made back in March, in March. You won't get it here. This is the beauty of tea. Now, if you saw last week's Tea Buyers episode, you would have seen me taste Tushan's, breakfast tea that we pick seasonally to an estate that had just produced some tea last week. Complete lack of flavour. Now, I want to see how these guys are comparing in this time period, because whoever's making good tea now is someone to look out for in the seasonal time to see, because they'll certainly be making good tea when everything's going right in terms of the weather. So let's start off. The first estate we have here is from Strathspey. You guys might have remembered some of the videos that I shot on Strathspey. The planter there is Seaverley. The leaf, let's have a look. Let's talk about the leaf first. Nice leaf, actually. Consistency in it. All particle sizes are the same. Comes off the hand like silk, actually. Little brown in the colour. Let's have a nose of it. Not really a lot on the nose. Not getting much out of it. Silky feel, but not much freshness to it. Let's have a look at the infusion. Now, Strathspey Estate, guys, is to get to Strathspey, you've got to pass through Maskeliya town. You're heading almost towards the Upcut area. It's a very large estate, 5 divisions. Let's have a look at this infusion. Very dull. There isn't that brightness. There isn't that coppery brightness that you expect to see from a good tea. This is out of season, so keep that in mind, guys. It's not to say that Strathspey makes a bad tea. You've got to think about the weather conditions that you're having on these estates at the moment. A lot more of an aroma coming through. A lot more of an earthy note. It smells fresh, but these are new samples, but you're getting an earthy note, but that's really about it. Now, one thing you'll see with the beauty in single estate tea is, it doesn't matter, all these teas are from Maskeliya. Each estate has its own, geographical subclimate. It might be raining on Strathspey, it might be very sunny on Laxapana. That will come out in its tea. This is not Coca-Cola. Each tea is different, each tea estate is different. It employs its own homegrown labour population that add to the character of a tea. If we look at the cup colour, it has the reddishness, but it doesn't look very thick. It doesn't look very bold. I expect this tea to be quite weak and quite thin in body. Let's give this a taste. Wow, very different from typical Strathspeys that I usually taste during season. Exactly how I said, lacking in body. You're getting a tiny bit of flavour in the mid palate, but generally lacking on the front of the palate, lacking at the back. Slight flavour you're getting in the mid palate, but it's lacking in body. It's really lacking in body. There's a lot of water in this leaf. I think they're probably withering this very hard, going for a very hard wither to even create a cup like this. So this just goes to show, this first cup from Strathspey. Strathspey's a great estate, by the way. Just goes to show how weather plays such a part in making tea. Let's get on to the next estate. Coming away from the upcut side, coming back into the centre of town. In fact, the current Maskeliya town is built on Glen Tilt Estate, and that's the next tee that we're going to try. Glen Tilt Estate, where Mr. Rennie Ramanathan is, a good friend of mine. I worked with him when he was on Laxapana. Very nice leaf actually from Rennie. Very, very nice leaf. It really does come off the hand like silk, and to be honest, just looking at the other 4 leaves, we've got Laxapana here, we've got Moray here. This is probably the best leaf that I'm seeing. This is probably the best leaf, just feels like silk to come off the hand. So let's whack this into the turnout, let's have a look. What have we got here? Feels like silk. Much more of a nose, much more of that typical Maskeliya smell that you associate with these teas comes straight off this. I'm actually really impressed because we didn't get any smell coming out of this one, much more of a fresher. This actually really takes me back to that video that I shot on a Monday morning on Gorthi Bungalow when I was actually drinking Glen Tilt tea. This really takes me back to that fresh cut flower smell. When I close my eyes, the only thing I can think of is the dam, the blue water, the sun shining. Not that the sun is shining up in Maskeliya at the moment, but that's what it takes me back to. Wonderful smell, nice leaf. Even there's a great consistency in the actual leaf as well. Even the particle sizes, if I just look here, the particle sizes are all even. That's very important. You want to have consistency in your leaf. You don't want to have very small particle sizes that fit more to the BOPF side, and you don't want to have very large ones that are fitting more towards the BOP side. These are all BOP guys, but very nice particle size. Let's have a look at the actual infusion itself. What can we see? It's a lot brighter, lot brighter than the Strathspey one. It even when just squeezing that, you get this wonderful fresh flavour coming out of this tea. Very, very typical Maskeliya smell. That really does take me back to the dam. Oh, can't wait for the next trip to Maskeliya to source some more tea during the season. It's not the time to go now because it's pouring with rain, but really does take you back. Let's have a look at the cup. Much more appealing. Looks a lot darker, a lot more. You can just tell that it's going to be a very brisk tea. That it just looks like it has a lot more flavour if you compare it to the Strathspey one. In fact, rather pan that camera into there. Can you pan that in there? Bring it in. Don't know if you guys can see it, but you've got a much thicker cup here. Much thicker cup. But this looks like a good tea. Let's give this a go. I'm really impressed. Really impressed with that Glen Tilt tea. It's got flavour. It's not the seasonal Glen Tilt. It's not going to be. You're not going to create seasonal tea at this time. But for this time period, with the weather conditions the way they are, has Rennie done a great job with this. I got to give it to him. It's good. It's still got the body. It's still got a bit of briskness in there. But there's still amount of flavour that he's captured in this leaf, that he's got out of his manufacture. You can still taste the flavour coming out of this tea. And that's not just on one part of your palate. I mean, on the tip of the tongue, you're getting that typical Glen Tilt flavour coming through. You're getting the briskness in the mid palate, and you're getting a fresh cut Maskeliya flavour on the sides. This is quite a nice tea, I have to admit. If you're ever coming up to Adams Peak to climb the Holy Mountain, and if you're coming from Hattonside and you come through to Maskeliya, you'll see Glen Tilt Factory. You can't miss it. As you come into Maskeliya town, you'll see Glen Tilt on the right hand side. If you guys are ever heading up that way, I highly recommend that you pop into this place and maybe pick up some of Rennie's tea. It is very nice. I'm very impressed. That's a good start. That's a good start. Let's get on to the next one. The next tea is a tea that I know personally very well. You guys who watch this show generally know it very well. It's from Laxapana Estate. It's the manager up there is Asanka Di Tissera, who's been featured on this show many times. Nice leaf, very nice leaf. Again, comes off the hand like silk. I love the particle sizes that he's got going here. I love the particle sizes that he has. Nice consistency to them. They all fit. There's no BOPF or dust element in this that you find in some of the upcountry teas nowadays. Very nice leaf. Let's give this a smell. Let's have a look. Nose is coming through, that typical Laxapana smell that you get in your leaf. Very nice, similar to a Glen Tilt actually, very similar smell to a Glen Tilt. Bear in mind, these are all from Maskeliya. You're going to have that signature Maskeliya Dimbula smell coming through in all these teas, but when you really taste through the depth in the cup, that's when you'll see the difference in each of these teas. It's a very nice smell coming out. Let's have a look at the infusion. Now, Glen Tilt was quite a bright infusion. Bear in mind, at one point Asanka was Rennie's boss, so has the apprentice learnt from the master? Or is the apprentice about to teach the master something? Well, looking at Asanka's leaf, actually, to be fair, looking at these two, ooh, I would say Laxapana still has a brighter infusion, but Glen Tilt has more on the nose. Glen Tilt has more on the nose, much more of a more pronounced smell on the nose, whereas Laxapana still has that note. Wow, oh, takes me right back to the factory, but no, Glen Tilt has the more pronounced nose on the infusion. So I think it's 1-0 here. Glen Tilt's going to take it here in the infusion. Let's have a look at the cup. Typical Laxapana, always stronger, much more brisker, much more bolder. This is the kind of tea that really gets you up. In fact, one of the Laxapana grades that I really enjoy drinking is Laxapana BOPF, because I don't think there's anybody in the upcountry that can make a BOPF better than Laxapana does. I love the flavour that it comes with it. It's one of those teas that when you have, it just gets you up in the morning. You can add a bit of milk to it. This looks like a very strong, thick liquoring tea. It's not as bright as Rennie's one. Rennie has a very bright tea. Seaville is actually lacking in brightness, but this one looks very thick. Let's give this one a go. Typical Laxapana, big hit, right in the mid and front palate. You just feel it. As soon as you put it in your mouth, you feel this big oozing of flavour. It doesn't have the flavour from season. I keep saying this in each of these teas because I'm so used to tasting these teas in season. It doesn't have that. You're really stepping down 5-6 steps from the seasonal stuff. But is this still a good tea? Is it a good tea to enjoy? Yes, it is. It's still a good tea to enjoy. I like it. It's got that typical Laxapana flavour. Not as strong. A lot mellower. Lot mellower. Easy sipping tea. In fact, I wouldn't even add any milk to this one. I wouldn't even add any milk. I would just sip it the way it is, because I think it's a very easy sipping, easy drinking tea. Which is very different from your typical Laxapanas that you usually have. Moving on to the final one, Moray. Know this one well. You guys know it well because you guys who buy the Planter's Breakfast enjoy this seasonal tea. Leaf today, much more browner, a lot browner in colour. Moray teas seasonally produce this pinkish hue, and they have that rosy flavour. You cannot mistake that rosy flavour in Moray. When the seasonal time, when you make that cup of tea, it's pink in the cup. You add a bit of milk to it, it still looks pink. Out of season, the leaf doesn't look great. The leaf does not look great out of season. Let's have a look at the smell of this. Lacking the nose from the last two, almost like Seaville's in some ways. Almost like Seaville's in some ways, lacking the nose. Lacking nose, little brown on the leaf. Let's have a look at the infusion. Is the infusion going to give us something more? Now the other two had some nice smells on the nose. The infusion looks bright. It's not as dull. to compare it to the Strathspey here, Strathspey is very dull, very, very dull. This Moray is a lot brighter if I compare that to the Laxapana. Laxapana is still the brightest one out of all of them. It's on par with the Glen Tilt. Nose has much more of an earthy smell. That rosy character that you get in the Moray is completely gone. You don't get it at all. Completely lost in the Moray. Completely lost on Moray. I know that Sean's moved on from Moray, so big shout out to Sean. Congratulations on moving up to Brownlow as the superintendent. I'm looking forward to going and seeing him soon. Let's have a look at the Moray Cup. Doesn't have the pinkish hue, doesn't have a golden rim around it. It almost reminds me a lot of this Strathspey, a mix between Strathspey and Glen Tilt in terms of colour. Let's give this one a taste. It's completely off. That's probably the one that has the biggest difference out of all of them. From tasting that in February, March time, where we had an amazing Moray tea come out. I just had that tea earlier on today. At afternoon tea, I had some breakfast tea just to wake me up a bit. To taste this Moray now, it's completely... You're getting an earthy note, but it's lacking in flavour, it's lacking in depth. The rosy note is completely gone. Clearly there's a lot of rain up there. A lot of rain, and you're not able to bring out the true flavour in the tea because the leaf is full of water. This has been interesting. Let's rank these teas up. I think it's going to come down to these two. Laxapana versus Glen Tilt. Glen Tilt is nice. Right. This is going to cause a stir. I'm going with Glen Tilt first. I was really impressed with it. In fact, I'm going to start focusing a lot more on Glen Tilt because I feel that they're going to make a great tea in the season. So for the guys on Laxapana and the guys on Moray, you better start watching out for what Rennie's doing out there, because I'm looking at Rennie's portfolio right now and I'm looking to buy from Rennie. Next I'm going with Laxapana. I think it's a good tea, but I think Glen Tilt just edges it out. It just edges it. In terms of the freshness and the flavour that you get in the Glen Tilt as opposed to the Laxapana. Simply because you can add a bit of milk to this, and you can still have this like a breakfast tea, or maybe as an all-day type of tea. Then, when it comes down to it, I'm going to have to go with Moray at the end, Strathspey third, and Moray following up. That, guys, is how I'm going to rank it. We're going Glen Tilt, Laxapana, Strathspey, and then Moray. Look at the difference. When I tasted these teas back in March, Moray was my pick. Moray was my #1 pick, and that's what we used for breakfast. We created a special tea, we had that for breakfast. Now, towards the end of the year in October, the tea has completely changed in flavour. And this actually is the beauty of tea. And this is why you should drink single estate tea and not get stuck to one type of tea. Because during the season, you're going to see different, during the year, you're going to see different flavours come out from each estate. Of course, at the seasonal time, that's the best time you can make your tea. But outside of season, look at this tea that Rennie has created. It's a very good cup of tea. It still has that brightness. It still has the flavour. This is a very commendable job to Rennie. I'm really stoked to try that. It's very interesting to see, and I'm going to be focusing on Glen Tilt. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Well, I don't know if I'm going to do a video next week. I'm probably going to shoot it this week because I've got to get through those teas as well. I've got a 7-line batch of Thalawakele teas. I don't think we've tasted some Thalawakales in a long time. We've got Great Western, we've got Somerset, we've got Barewell. We're scouting out for teas to use for next year. I think there's some Holyrood in there as well. So guys, check out next week's episode. It's going to be a bumper episode. There's 7 teas on there for me to taste. I'm really looking forward to tasting those. I'm going to give you some history about the estates as well. So guys, as ever, subscribe to the channel, click and share this video out with your friends and your family. Go to the website, check out our Planter's Breakfast, which is from Moray Estate. If you're quick enough to order, I'll send you a sample of this tea and you can compare the tea against what you guys have bought. and if I've got some other samples left over, I'll send you a sample of what I've got left over, that is, of Rennie's tea, but there won't be a lot of this because I'm definitely going to drink it. So guys, thank you for watching and happy sipping.